share your personal leadership approach and how it has evolved over the years?
So I think I've always been in some kind of leadership role at a university. I have a business background before I came into the university, so I don't have a typical education trajectory. But I've always served in some kind of administrative role since I've been here, so faculty, but also in administration. And I think that over time, as I think about leadership and what's important about being a good leader, right? It's always about having a big vision, right? And so then it's really about two things. It's, do you have a vision, right, for where you want to see an institution go, where you want to see things heading, and then how do you design to get there, right? So I think the more that I have done this, the better I've gotten, right, at the design piece. So always thinking about what are the big ideas, what's next, what do you notice, how do you notice things that aren't just in education, how do you look around, see what's happening in the world, how do you bring that into your vision, and then how do you help people to then get there, right? How do you build that, how do you design for that vision?
So could you describe a challenging leadership situation you have faced and how you navigated, and what did you learn from that experience?
I think right now, I think we're probably in the most challenging times in terms of education, right? Both at the university and the perception of universities, right, that has gone down, and the perception of our K-12 education system. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to really think about how we design our way out of it, right? I always go back to that and how we think about it. So everything that we're doing right now in the college is really looking at what's happening now. We know we can't maintain status quo. And so as a leader, not a manager, but as a leader, how do you start to have a bigger vision for what that could be?
All right, that's interesting. So in the context of academia, how you see the role of leadership in promoting innovation and positive change within an institution?
So I think every leader needs to be thinking about what's the next piece, right, of that change process. And so you're always thinking about which way are we going to turn, how do we go, where do we need to go next, right? It can't stay the same. And so you're always managing that change process. And it's not always easy, right? You have to go with the people who want to change, who see what you see. You can't get too far in front of people or else they just rebel. But I think that, guiding and letting people understand what that vision is and how this could play out and how it would actually help them, make sense for them, would be, is really what a leader does.
So what strategies do you use to foster a culture of collaboration and teamwork among faculty, staff, and students?
So we talk a lot about building teams with distributed expertise, and I think one is you have to respect the people who are around you. You have to build a good team. Sure. I have lots of people who work, with me who are on my executive team. They all bring different perspective, different sets of knowledge. And I think most of this is about how do you simply respect what they know and listen to what they know and then make decisions based on, really careful analysis of talking to a lot of different people, getting different perspectives and then taking steps forward.
Yeah, that's interesting. So can you provide some insight into your approach to decision making as a leader? And how do you involve others in decision-making process?
Well, it's interesting. I think I talk to a lot of people before I make big decisions, right? I mean, there are some decisions that are easier to make, right? But you also have to assume that every decision that you make is precedent setting, right? So when you make a decision, that decision, that's going to set the course, right, for others. And so when you think about that and you go, well, okay, what I'm doing is going to set, it's going to mean something, right, moving forward, then I have to be very, very careful about what that decision is.
Sure. Absolutely.
So the more people you get involved in that decision, the more perspectives you get, the better off you are.
Wow, interesting. How do you stay updated with the latest trends and developments in education and leaderships, and how do you incorporate them into your role as a dean?
I think it's about just paying attention and reading a lot and a lot of different things, right? So I don't just read things in education, I read things outside of education, that I think have bearing on what we were doing in terms of changes in the world and economics and climate and all kinds of things, right? Because as climate changes, we're going to see demographics. That means schools are going to see demographics that change, and we're going to see, things change in higher ed. If you look out and you're paying attention to what's happening in the economies of the world, right, that's going to impact what's happening in education, the way that people move, the way, who our students are, the kinds of things that we need to do for them, the services that we need to provide. So I think it's just really just paying attention to what's going on out there, to what people are saying, to what people are paying, other people are paying attention to. And then I think it helps drive the direction, right? You're paying attention to technology, you're paying attention to, just what other people see, right, as innovation in the field, and whether or not that's right or wrong, but how do you build that into
So you have to be careful to make decisions.
Where you're going to lead, right?
Yeah, sure. So, in your opinion, what are the key challenges and opportunities facing educational institutions nowadays?
Higher education?
Yeah, and how does effective leadership play a role in addressing this issue?
Well, one, I think, is that one of the things that certainly is affecting higher ed, right, is public perception.
Okay.
And whether or not people actually value a college education. So that's a big piece of it, right? So do they see the institution actually adding value, or whether or not they think that it's adding the right kind of value? So you have to pay attention to that. I think there is shifting demographics in our student population we have to pay attention to. We have to build organizations that are learner-centered, that are actually paying attention to the needs of our students. Our students need to work. Our students are national students. Our students are, are coming from different experiences and backgrounds. So we can't just build an institution with blinders around who the students are. We actually have to look at the students and build the institution around them. So I think that's the thing. I think we certainly are seeing then the world changing in terms of technology, right? AI is everywhere. We're going to have to think about technological solutions to education, how we incorporate those, what that looks like, the way that people want to learn today, what they see as value, right, in students, right? So we have to be attractive to students to want to come and get this education. And I think there are also, employers, right, that are looking for certain things that we have to also pay attention to. I think there's a lot of research, right, that needs to be done, and we have to figure out how we are going to be an asset and a value to the community as well, so that it's about our students, it's also about our community, right, and how we serve our community. So it is about ASU's charter in that sense, right?
Okay. Can you share any examples of successful initiatives or project you have led and have had a positive impact on Model Fulton?
So right now, one of the biggest things that we are doing here is what we call Next Education Workforce.
Wow.
So we looked at what's happening in the teacher workforce, K-12 teacher workforce. Okay. We have less people coming in. We have fewer people coming into the workforce. We have more people leaving. And we said, what if it's not a recruitment retention problem? What if what we have is a workforce development problem? And how could we actually change what schools look like? So how could we shift schools from a one teacher, one classroom model to something that looks like people working on teams around kids? So we started that about 5 years ago. That is now getting tremendous demand, right, for people thinking about what these models could look like. And we've been leading that right here at the Marys of Fulton Teachers College at ASU, right? So we're now in 14 different states and at least one country in the Netherlands who have schools now that are moving this direction to think about what team-based schools could look like and how that builds a different kind of working condition for teachers and how that's building a different kind of learning environment for kids.
Interesting. So the last question, what advice would you give to individuals aspiring to leadership roles within the field of education or academia?
Read stuff that's outside of education, right? So notice things that are going on in the world. Don't just read education, right? Read about what's going on in business, read about what's going on in the economy, read about what's happening around, refugees, read about what's going on around climate, read about like technology, whatever it is.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have to be an expert in all those areas, but you have to know what's going on.
Okay.
The more that you know, right, the better you will be in being able to set a vision and to think about what could be next.
Perfect. Thank
Okay?
you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.